Good morning, everybody. Who's been to Canada? Hey, pretty good. I think you'd agree it's not a bad place to go, and from a customer service perspective, you generally get treated pretty well. But lately, it's been getting a bad rap. There was a conference last week called Boring 2011. You may know where this is going. And the Times noted that this is the second annual conference. And the Times noted that it was a success because the Canadian film crew came to film it. And as we all know, Canada is one of the boring nations of the world. So that's what they say about Canada. But I guess the thing I would say about it is that I'm delighted that we've got boring bankers and politicians who have kept us on the straight and narrow while the rest of the world is going to hell in a handbasket. Now, I don't know if you know how Canada got started. Interesting story, if I may just share this with you. God was speaking to the angel Gabriel one day, and he said, I'm going to create this new country called Canada. It'll be a land of great natural beauty, snow-capped mountains, shimmering blue lakes, forests full of elk and moose. The rivers will be overflowing with salmon, and the land will be rich in oil, so the inhabitants will prosper. And I'm going to call these people Canadians, and they'll be the friendliest people on earth. Gabriel looked at God and said, aren't you being a little generous to these Canadians? Wait, said God, till you see who I'm going to give them for neighbors. Now, I joke, there's probably some Americans here, so I've lived and worked with Americans for many years. We've got the longest undivided border in the world, so we have to get along. We haven't had a war since 1812, and we won that one, so I guess we're doing okay. As Paul said, changing channels, and I've kind of taken you to the U.S. where our story starts, because I want to use, as Joe had, some examples of sort of what's going on in the world and what I think a great example of customer experience. And I want to make you an offer. So here's an offer that is made to people on a regular basis, and I want to see how many of you might be interested in this. So this is an offer of $2,000. And for many of you, you could probably do this during a holiday period if you took 2 or 3 weeks holiday. And it'll be a great opportunity to travel to one of the great cities of the world and potentially make $2,000. Anyone have any idea what I might be talking about? Okay, that's probably okay. Zappos in Las Vegas. Zappos, who's heard of Zappos? Zappos, and I'll give you a bit more information in a minute. Zappos is probably the poster child for customer experience and great customer service around the world. And what Zappos do is that they bring prospective employees into Las Vegas for a 4-week training period. At the end of the first week, they offer them $2,000 to quit. Thank you for joining. Thank you for coming to see us. We appreciate you taking the time. If you don't think that you fit into the culture, then we're going to give you $2,000 for your trouble. We'll part at friends, we'll shake hands, and away you go. About 2 to 3% actually take them up on that offer. And I think it shows that if you're prepared to put that kind of money on the line, you have to feel pretty good about the level of customer service, the level of engagement that you're expecting your employees to have to be able to deliver to your customers. And interestingly, there's another $2,000 number. I don't know if anyone knows another number for $2,000 that I might be referring to. One of the other companies that is put out as a great example of customer experience and customer service is Ritz-Carlton. Every employee at Ritz-Carlton has a unlimited, or not unlimited, but they can provide every guest every day with up to $2,000 to either enhance the customer experience or to fix a problem. Everyone, not just the senior people, everyone in the organization. That's a pretty good empowerment of people as far as I'm concerned. So let me just tell you a little bit more about Zappos, because for those of you that are sort of looking through your agenda saying, what's this got to do with changing channels? I will get there. And I'm delighted that Joe said so many of the things that she did, because while we had not seen each other's presentations, much of what she is saying supports, I hope, what I'm going to talk about today. So Zappos is a retailer based in Las Vegas, as I mentioned. They were founded in 1999. Their head office in Las Vegas. They have another office in Kentucky where they ship all their goods from. Their sales have gone from 0 to 1.1 billion in just about 10 years. They have 1,100 brands, 150,000 styles, and what they say is that they're a service company that happens to sell shoes and lots of other stuff. And their brand is powered by service, and they live this every day. And when Tony Hsieh, who is the CEO of Zappos, was starting the company, a friend of mine in the US who knew Tony, and Tony said, I'm going to ship shoes on the internet. And she said, well, wait a minute, Tony. Said, that's crazy. She said, it takes me 3 pairs of shoes just to find one that fits. So how are you going to take care of that? He said, simple. We'll ship you 3 pairs. You keep the one you like. You send 2 back at our cost. And that's what they do. They never, ever charge for shipping either their way or your way. Never, never, never pay. So what Zappos have done is that they've created this core family value. And when I talk to people about customer experience and companies that they should look at, people say, well, you know, Jerry, we're not Zappos. We couldn't do this. You know, we're not really in that type of business. And I say to them, and I would say to you, with the possible exception if you're an NHS trust or a police force, so you might not want to create fun and be a little weird, but I would say to you that most of these things are things that you would aspire to. I don't think there's anything here that you would say, as a business, we don't want to do. So I point to that and say, look, is this not what you want in your organization? And is this not what you feel you want to be looking at? And then I say, well, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about positive and frequent media coverage? Because when you leave today, you go and Google Zappos, those of you who don't know it, you will see some fabulous stories about them. I mentioned their sales through the roof. I mean, talking about whether customer experience pays off. It pays off, and it pays off big time. Happy, engaged employees. You'll see lots of videos that Zappos employees have done showing how much fun they're having. It should be illegal for people to have this much fun. I know they're in Las Vegas, but boy, that's not right. And then strong, consistent, vocal customer advocacy. We've heard from both Paul and Joe about what's happening out there. This is what's driving people to buy from Zappos. And the point of this is that it didn't just happen. If you think about when they started in 1999, firstly, social media really didn't exist. The web was only really just taking off. And certainly things like web chat were, really not much of that around. So all of this stuff evolved. And this is, the title of this slide is from their presentation. So their customer service has really evolved into this multi-channel model. And what the reality is today is that with the phone calls that they take, the live chat sessions they have, online orders, etc., all of this activity adds up to a lot of calls or a lot of activity. And what they're saying is that we want to create more touch points with your customers and enable more frequent and meaningful engagement with them. In other words, the more places that we can touch you, the better we'll do. And it ends up being over 1 million interactions a day, all over the place. So there's a lot of stuff going on. You better get your cross-channel act together if you want to be able to make sure all of that works together. So who else is doing a good job? Because again, we're hearing about companies, and Joe pointed out some of the companies. Fortunately, I've got at least one of them up here. Zappos is one of them. Four Seasons is another one. I don't know if you know it, Four Seasons is also a Canadian company, started by Izzy Sharp in 1961. And when he started the company, he's not a rich guy. He was a builder. And he decided that he could do a better job of building hotels. Someone had asked him to build a hotel. He built it. He gave the guy some advice. He didn't take it. He said, you know what? I can build a hotel. The first hotel that Izzy Sharp built in Toronto in 1961 was the Four Seasons Motor Hotel. Yes, the Four Seasons started out as a motel. That's where they started. But he built it in such a way that it encouraged customers to really mingle in a way that he thought was positive. He did lots of things there. He didn't start off as a deluxe hotel operator. He started off as a guy that really understood what customers wanted. We heard about Emirates. If you've flown Emirates, a great airline. I just flew to Dubai a little while ago. First time on Emirates. Fabulous experience. Same thing with Virgin. I've got a story about Virgin in a minute. And Metrobank. Has anyone gone to Metrobank? Any Metrobank customers? So Metrobank, the first new bank in the UK in 150 years. And when you go to their stores, they don't call them branches, you'll find it's a very different experience. And I have a brief story on that in a minute. So these are the kinds of people. And as Joe mentioned, what is going on out there is organizations are not only being benchmarked within their own segment. People are going to places like that. People are buying from Zappos and saying, that's the experience I want. Don't tell me you can't do it, because that's what I expect you to do. And what's happening is that the customers want this. It's not just whether you want it or not. And this is today's customer. Big mouth, small wallet. This wasn't meant to be either sexist or rude. I think it's Goldie Hawn. It simply suggests that our customer today has a lot of power, as we've heard already. And they're not reluctant to let people know about it. Who knows about United Breaks Guitars? Who's seen that video? Great, okay. So Dave Carroll, another fine Canadian guy, probably the most boring man on the face of the earth, did that fabulous video that's had more viewings. It's had now over 11 million hits on YouTube. He did 2 more videos about United Breaks Guitar, or about United Airlines. If you haven't seen it, go and Google United Breaks Guitars. The effect that had was absolutely astronomical. I know Dave quite well. He was just over here in the UK a couple of weeks ago. He's now built a whole career, along with his singing career, on customer experience and customer service, because he's realized that this is what people want. They identify with a guy like him. He was just a regular guy, singer, going from Halifax to Chicago. They broke his guitar. And you'll see the story on Google or on YouTube. I won't go into it. But it just created a tremendous amount of excitement, and people realized what they could do. And what's changed? Joe touched on some of these things. What's changed is that people are becoming more social, both in terms of the word social media, but just in terms of how they do things. They're becoming more mobile. And they're becoming more mobile in a number of different ways. Mobile in terms of the technology. We've all walking around with smartphones. But mobile in terms of where they're going. I've spent most of my life between the UK and Canada, so I've been bouncing backwards and forwards for a long, long time. Quite a few years ago, people did not go routinely to the US or Canada from here or vice versa. And so a lot of the things that were going on over there simply weren't seen by people. Now, people go to New York for a weekend. They go to Toronto for a weekend. They see things over there. And I'm not necessarily saying it's better or worse there. I'm simply saying they're exposed to other things. So mobility has opened the door for a lot of things. So this is what's changing. All of these things, especially in this economy, this is what people are feeling. This is what people are going through. And so consequently, we're looking for companies to keep up with this, but everyone isn't keeping up with the change. This is the problem. So when we're having these situations where we call in, having already tried to do something online or tried to do something with our mobile device or sent an email or whatever it is, and the advisor that we speak with has no knowledge of that, we're very frustrated. And so there's a number of things going on. Again, I'm not going to read everyone out of this, but this is some of the survey that were done by a company called eConsultancy about what's happening out there. And I think, again, it supports many of the things that Joe was saying about what's going on in there. Why are these things happening? And what you end up with, and this happens to me more often than not, is that you end up on the other end of the phone going, you've got the wrong information. Because for some reason, the information that they should have picked up from my online transaction or the email that I sent a week ago or wherever else simply hasn't made it to the contact center. And it's not fair to the advisor. How can he or she do a great job if they can't see what's going on? But why is this happening now? You think, boy, 2011, I've been in this business a while, as you can see. This isn't makeup. And the point is that I've seen some of the changes take place. And about 10 years ago, I worked for a company called Genesys. So for those of you who may know it, one of the leading customer contact center companies. And at that time, when they were leading the world sort of in the call routing world, we started to see more people start to do email routing. And people say, oh yeah, this is what's going to happen. And it took a long time for email routing to kind of happen, and now all of the other things that are being routed. But you think by now people would have figured it out. But again, some of the things that are happening here, and again, this is from our friends at eConsultancy, you can see a lot of organizations simply aren't in a position to do the things they need to do. So multi-channel is either new to them, or they've just dabbled in it, or they don't have the systems in place. All of the stuff that's going on simply doesn't allow them to do what they need to do. And it really comes down to what I consider organizational alignment. Again, Joe touched on this in terms of getting everyone together, this new organization, and we'll talk a little bit about this as we get into the meat of this. Strativity does a regular survey on what's going on in the world, and I'll just summarize this for you. This was a survey that we've done on a regular basis, and we asked key executives, or pardon me, key executives and other people in the business about what's going on. And so between 30 and 40% said, which is a relatively low number, said that they did not work collaboratively because they were agreeing with this statement. Employees have the tools and authority to solve customer problems. Basically, they didn't have the things in place. The employees are not well versed, the definition of the customer experience is not well defined, etc. So when you look at somebody like Zappos, when you look at somebody like Ritz-Carlton, or Four Seasons, any of these companies, you see they've got this going for them, whereas these organizations simply don't. And what happens is you get the promise. Everyone says, oh yes, the customers, we must focus on the customer, and the customer experience is crucial to success, and we need to make fans of our customers. Everyone's on this big fan bandwagon. Customers no longer want products, they want customer experience. Oh yeah, we got to do it all. Then the reality hits, and this is what you hear. And I hear this all the time. I work with a lot of organizations talking about customer experience strategy. And this is what you hear. We're doing it already. No, we're doing it. Yeah, we're doing it. We're on a par with the competition. We already said that's not good enough anymore. We're still making our numbers. Yeah, anyone's making their numbers these days is doing really well. But what happens is there's two things. Firstly, the executives doubt the case for the customer. We've heard some of it already. They doubt that that is actually what's going on in the world. So they say, you know what, I'm not sure that customers really care that much. Yeah, social media, yeah, it's important, but don't know. Or, more often than not, they doubt the financial case. And there's a very good reason why they doubt the financial case. And again, we've done some surveys that kind of point this out. This was a survey that we do on a regular basis asking senior executives whether or not they know the answers to these questions. So this is 80% of the senior executives don't know the cost of a customer complaint, the cost of total resolution, their annual average customer value, and the cost of a new customer. Somebody does in a business. I'm not suggesting a business does. The senior executives didn't know this. So if you're trying to sell a customer experience program or a change program of any kind, certainly one that involves really looking at multi-channel, you're going to have a tough time if your senior people don't understand these things. And let me just give you an example that illustrates that. When I worked for Genesys, who were headquartered in San Francisco, I used to travel backwards and forwards from there quite often. I was fortunate enough to go on Virgin Atlantic. The reason I'm a Virgin Atlantic fan is that I used to go from there to San Francisco. One trip I got upgraded to upper class, which is a great experience. And I was sitting there, and the flight attendant came up to me. She said, Mr. Brown, I'm really sorry to tell you the in-flight information system is not working. I'd like to either offer you 75 pounds of duty-free or 50,000 frequent flyer miles. I said, well, that's very nice of you, but is this your last trip? Are you retiring? She said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, once Richard Branson finds out you're giving out this kind of stuff, you're going to get fired. She said, no, let me explain. She said, I know that as an upper-class customer, you have certain expectations that we have not met. She said, I also know that it's very likely that at the end of this flight, you'll go off and you may make a complaint. I know that when we get a complaint, it costs us anywhere from $150 to $300, and our Virgin Atlantic friends may tell me yes or no, but in that range. And she says, also, if we then have to compensate you, it's going to cost us another $150 to $300. So it potentially could cost us £600 to fix this problem for you. And she said, I know that if I can do something for you now, it doesn't necessarily fix the fact you can't see a movie, but if I can do something for you now and show that we really do care, A, it will make you happier, which is our most important thing, and B, it'll make sure that we don't spend a lot of money. It's as basic as that. When you let people know, when you empower them with that information, then it's going to make a difference. Okay, let's see if we can fix some of these things. As I always say to people, there are no quick fixes, but I do think there are three key areas we have to look at. A customer experience strategic framework, which really is talking about all of the things you need to do from a very strong cross-functional perspective, an evolving technology journey through the cloud, and I'll touch on this in a minute to talk about cloud, and a new approach to people power. Again, Jo mentioned this in her presentation about how important it is to really think about and look at what you're doing with your people, the kinds of things that Zappos do. I encourage you to follow up on Zappos, because if you want to go, and you may not get a chance to go and earn the 2,000, but if you want to go, if you happen to find yourself in the US, in particular in Las Vegas, and you happen to be at a loose moment, which probably shouldn't happen in Las Vegas, but on the off chance that it does, they will meet you at the airport, they'll take you to the call center, they'll give you a tour. You don't have to be anyone famous, you can be me. And they'll take you around and show you what it's all about. And get Tony Hsieh's book, fabulous book about how they've done it. Give you some great things. So this is what I believe are the three key elements. And when we look at that, it's not just me saying it. I was delighted that Jo said some of these things too. The development of customer experience strategy has increased significantly. The single biggest problem is the lack of cross-company customer experience strategy. Again, from the consultancy report. IBM saying that CIOs are saying that cloud is important. And from Client Experience, another consultancy, saying if you're starting to have a new experiential approach with your customers, you must extend this to your employees. So this is just some additional supporting information. So what does a customer experience strategic framework mean? Long expression, but what does it really mean? Well, there's a lot to this, but these are some of the key areas again. It incorporates listening, understanding, and taking action on what customers and employees are saying about the brand and the overall company. We talked about hearing, what's going on Twitter. Taking this information, making sure you can do something actionable about it is one of the starting points for customer experience framework. It's used to create an organizational alignment. I talked about this. When you start pulling this information in and you share this with the other parts of the business, they begin to see what's actually going on and what they need to do. The experience has got to be embedded in the corporate culture. This is what Zappos have done. This is what Four Seasons have done. This is what Ritz-Carlton have done. Absolutely embedded in the culture. It's not just, as Jo said, it's not just for today. Customer experience isn't just for Christmas. It's forever. This is the kind of thing we're talking about. And then empowering employees. That is an overused word, but I tell you, my own personal experience is there simply aren't enough empowered employees out there. And I'll give you a couple of examples before we finish off. But giving them the tools and authority and information to guide their decisions. This is what Ritz-Carlton do when they give their people $2,000. They say, you have whatever it takes to fix this problem. I mentioned an evolving journey through the cloud. And I recognize, and firstly, let me identify myself. I am a card-carrying member of the Evangelist for Cloud. However, having said that, I realize that everyone isn't necessarily in the same place, and for good reasons. There are still some questions about cloud computing, about reliability, security, and so all of those things. And I'm not debating that today with you, but simply to say I recognize that. I also recognize that many of you have legacy systems, and I'm not suggesting for a moment you go out tomorrow and turf them all out. What I'm saying is it is an evolution, and I think if you take the journey, you'll find that it will be a worthwhile journey. Because cloud computing can offer lower startup costs, shorter implementation time, less dependence on IT, and free trials. And I've highlighted the last part because what that allows you to do, if you want to test something out, most organizations these days allow you to download something because it's that simple. You don't even physically download it. Of course, it's there. So being able to test things in your own time with your own people is a great way of finding out whether or not the solution works for you. It also provides accelerated performance, innovative applications, and links to other cloud applications, especially social media. Most of all the social media is in the cloud. So you need something to be able to pull that in an effective way. And I think one of the key here, what I was saying earlier, it can seamlessly revitalize existing legacy systems through proven pre-built links and make this available across the enterprise. Because what I'm actually saying to you is I'm not saying go out and absolutely integrate everything into the cloud. What I'm saying is you have to normalize the information that you get across your channels. Because the information you get from an online customer won't be necessarily the same information you get when you're speaking to them on the phone or if they send you an email. But what you do need to get is the information that's critical as that transaction goes across channels. So if you pick something up online that perhaps the customers followed this online link because of a special offer, then if that eventually ends up in the call center, that person needs to know that. That's how it got there. So having the ability to normalize the information, perhaps put it in a place that is cloud-based, where your existing systems can interact with that, pull it in as and when required, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about from an evolution perspective. And then lastly, I guess these are just sort of one-line bullet points. It enables remote working. It can provide the latest functionality. It can give you disaster recovery. It can address fluctuating demand, something we're all concerned with these days. And also it encourages employee collaboration. I know some people here from Starbucks, so they've used that very effectively, and using things like Salesforce Chatter to be able to enable people to collaborate, to talk with customers, to talk with each other, and really make a difference in how they do things. So when I talk about the evolving journey to the cloud, that's the type of journey I'm talking about. And the third, and whether it's the most important or not, I don't know, but a new approach to people power. What this means is taking the same approach that people like Zappos have done. Reevaluate the hiring criteria based on your core values, something like Zappos have done. That's what they hire for. They hire for people that fit that. Introduce, involve, and then contribute to a clearly defined customer experience strategic framework. So back to the strategic framework, these people should be involved in it. This isn't something that you surprise people with. This is something that they're involved with from day one. Any successful customer experience program that's led to multi-channel being deployed have usually involved everyone throughout the business. Encourage and award participation in a stimulated working environment. The things that Zappos have done, yes, they offer you $2,000 to quit, but they offer you a lot more money if you stay. So clearly they've got some reasons to have people stay. Demonstrate early and often your commitment to smart technology. Now, I've used the word smart. What I mean here is that people that are looking for jobs now, although jobs are scarce, people are beginning to hire you. They're looking at you and saying, what kind of an organization is this to work with or work for? Do they have the kind of technology that's going to help me do my job in a better way? Am I going to grow and learn? That's the sort of thing they're looking for. And introduce a truly collaborative, progressive process improvement model, meaning get them to tell you what's broken. Because if they have to continually deliver a painful message to customers because of a process that isn't working, they'll soon get upset with that. And that's where you get the problems with agents. It's not their fault. There's a process that's broken. Encourage them to change it. I'll do a quick spin through here because I know I'm getting short on time. You may know that Best Buy has decided to pull out of the UK. It's unfortunate, but nonetheless, they've done a fabulous job. Again, I'd encourage you to go Google Best Buy. They've got some great stuff on Twitter, pardon me, on YouTube as to what they've done. They've set up a really great organization where everyone is empowered to help the customer. That's the bottom line. Here in the UK, Metro Bank, I am a Metro Bank customer. By the way, none of these people I'm speaking to are clients. So just so you know, I am doing this because I have admiration for them, not an obligation to them. But these are people that I think have done a great job. So do yourself a favor, go and open a Metro Bank account. This is a view of what Virgin Media are doing. Their predecessors, Telewest and NTL, did not have the greatest reputations in the world. I think I can say that quite safely. I think Virgin Media have done a much better job, and this is how they're tracking what's being said to people online. And then some people will get the shirt, give you the shirt off their back. I love Charles Tyrwhitt. They do a great job. They have great shirts. And they also send me 10 pounds every now and then because they check out the fact that I haven't bought from them. And I had an experience with them recently where I put an order online. I noted that they had a 10 pounds off shipping, which didn't get on the order. Called the call center thinking, oh yeah, they're going to tell me, not my department. Well, she said, no problem. I'll take care of that, and I'll send you an email as soon as it's done, which she did. It was all taken care of. So they have my vote. Dell is another one. I won't spend a lot of time on this, but this one came out of a bad experience that Dell had in 2005. If you Google Dell hell, you'll find out how it all got started. So they've done a great job improving their customer experience. Some quick takeaways for you. Build consensus and cooperation through a customer experience framework. Establish a technology roadmap that links with legacy systems, can pilot solutions quickly, and take an innovative, inclusive approach to all aspects of the people side of your business. There are no quick fixes, but I would say here's some things. If you can go and do these things tomorrow, see how many people in your company can define your customer experience strategy. Monitor some feedback. Just go on Twitter, go on and just Google your company, see what's coming back. Take it to your CEO, MD. Show him or her what's happening. See if you can quickly or easily tell if a customer's visited your website, used self-service, or emailed prior to calling your call center. That will be telling. Do a quick inventory of your commitment to cloud solutions. Just see what you're using. Let's see what you're doing. And then ask your customer service team how many systems they use for an interaction. Now, you may know this because if you're part of the customer service team, but it'll be interesting. See how many times it takes them to actually get to something. Your new mantra is listen, engage, and act. Listen, engage, and act is something you'll see on just about every website of somebody that's doing social media monitoring. So it's nothing I've figured out, but this is what you have to do. Listen to what customers are saying about you, to you, around you, engage with them, really engage, not just ignore them, and then act on that information. Just some parting shots. As Joe said, social media has elevated the need for a holistic multi-channel world. Frontline people need to be empowered beyond traditional voice and email, and interaction should be visible in real time across all channels. It's just not fair to them if they can't see if you had a bad experience online. Successful companies need to go where their customers are. This is what social media is doing. So, do you know where yours are? Or will changing channels leave them with? Thank you.